Sorry, guys, the executive committee meeting went just the meeting before that went just so running behind all day, I think. Let me double check here. Why am I echoing?
You're echoing and my speakers are crackling. Something's not right with my computer.
Testing, is that any better? Nope. Change speakers again. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Is that better? Do you hear me?
Yeah, sure do.
And no echo?
No echo.
Oh, cool.
What happened to Melinda? Was she just in?
I thought was that with Melinda?
Yes.
It's been a while since I've seen her.
Hi, Denise. Hi, everybody. I just saw you, Adrian.
I know, long time no see.
Did you get your hair cut?
I did. I did.
Let's see here.
Hi, Melinda.
Hi, Melinda.
Hello. Now I can hear you. I was hooked up to a different system and it didn't want to work on this one.
Are you in here twice or something?
Because you have an echo.
Yeah. Like I don't see you in twice.
It wouldn't surprise me because I tried a couple times. So
okay, you sound better now.
Oh, good.
Okay. Let's see. Adrian, you have Amy is said that she was going to be here, but everybody else that said they were going to be here is here.
Excellent. Okay, so let's get started in the interest of saving time. Just so you know what my overall agenda is, and I will get better at sending out agendas in advance, hopefully. But there are three main things I'd really like to talk about today. The first is the meeting that Connie and I were just in with Barnes and Thornburg, Joe Loftus, our my brain just went. Lobbyist. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, our lobbyist. Also would like to talk about Adult Education Day because that's coming up very quickly. And then there were some previous advocacy goals that Jen shared with me. Was this month, Jen? That I thought we could revisit and see if those are things that we would like to do with the rest of this program year. Any questions, comments, concerns about that overall agenda? Excellent. All right. So the Barnes and Thornburg meeting, we started off talking about a bill that is being authored by Representative Michelle Davis that will ultimately, and Connie and Robbie and Jenny were in there, so correct me if I misspeak, but it sounds like it's going to change the language regarding exit interviews, taking the superintendent signature off so that students will need to go through the exit interview process and get the principal, parent, and student signatures, but not the superintendent signature.
I hope that just goes.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Correct.
Excellent. That was something that that Mr. Loftus brought up and said that it was likely we would want to, support that. So sounds like we do. Excellent, excellent. The next part that came up from that particular meeting was Mr. Loftus requested some updated talking points. And I'm going to, so I can't talk and do at the same time, I apologize, but I'm going to drop into the chat last year's talking points, just so you have them. They're there for you. Can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so I apologize for that. But these are the talking points that were developed last year. Okay, got it. Man, chat's yelling at me today. There we go. These are the talking points that were developed last year during the lobbying session to try to ensure that we did get the funding, the 4 million for this year, the 8 million for next year, the total of 12 million. This is part of it. And he has requested an update on those talking points, as well as, I'll do one more drop in the chat while we're all here. Here we go. Okay, so the legislative talking points gives him an idea of what, he can and should be saying. And it uses the same language that the DWD uses, that we use, so that as the legislators are hearing it, they're hearing the same message in the same language, they're getting the consistency, and he is just simply asking for updated talking points. Additionally, it came up that we should be discussing the difference in adult education, adult high schools, and the workforce diploma program. That was another thing that was created last year, was that Indiana adult learning landscape. It had the differences. It showed our cost per student, the cost per graduate, the state cost, and it really highlighted that we are cost effective and timely in serving the students. So those are two things that he had talked about updating. Some of the talking points that were discussed in this meeting included, I should say, results from that monetary increase, that $4 million. And Marilyn was in the meeting, and she did try to very elegantly and delicately say that that 4 million, it just kind of got us back up to where we weren't completely and totally drowning, but it didn't really provide the surplus that legislators might think it did. So she said that much more elegantly than I just did. Much more elegantly, more professionally. That's why she's in the position. But a couple things that the DWD, Jerry specifically said that they are now tracking the wait lists to show, hopefully that the wait lists are going down. And additionally, there has been at this point a 15 to 17% increase in enrollment over last year. So those were a couple of points that could go towards how the additional funding might have benefited us. A little bit more, Marilyn talked about being adult ed being a partner in infrastructure work, including the broadband, digital equity. She was talking specifically about, and again, Jen, Rob, Connie, I'm just kind of going down the list. You were in there. Please expand on this. But money coming in to, increase digital equity, increase people's access to the internet, and how we might be able to leverage adult education to train people, because it's all well and good that the money's coming in, but trained service providers have to, put in broadband and create the access. Is there anything I missed so far?
No, but I did have a question. There was several mentions of the Grad Alliance. What is that?
Graduation Alliance is an online adult high school diploma provider. they were funded probably starting about, I'm going to guess, maybe 4 or 5 years ago with $1 million to provide online courseware for adults age 22 and older to provide them what's called a workforce, let's see, high school workforce diploma program. That's the name of their program in Indiana. And so they have to, and the funding is based on enrollment and performance, or enrollment and completion of milestones, actually. So the student enrolls, they get so much money. They complete courses, they get so much money. They get their diploma, so much money. They get, I think there's one more thing, but there's like 3 or 4 milestones that results in a total amount of payment this Graduation Alliance gets per student. And so they're funded up for up to $1 million. So they get funded again and then funded again and funded again. So it's run by the grant competition for that is run by the Governor's Workforce Cabinet.
Okay.
Several of our adult education providers applied for that when it first rolled out to do a workforce diploma program. None of us got it. Graduation Alliance did. And when I say competition, it's really not a competition anymore. They're sort of just like renewed, it seems. There's no RFP issued anymore. But they operate that way in several states. They have boilerplate legislation. They just introduce it in several states.
Okay.
And no, we don't have any idea of how well they're doing. So even when we ask, we can't get the info. So except on the landscape, we do know that much.
And is that the workforce diploma program that's in the third column? Is that what you're talking about?
That's very one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. The last point that they talked about underneath the talking points were employer examples, how we've been able to better reach out and serve employers. And they mentioned Ascension, and was it Herbie Risk?
Herbie Risk in Lafayette.
Okay. So I'm going to make a request. I am going to be meeting, Rob and I are going to be meeting with Jerry and Laura Pastore to update these talking points. And we have not set the meeting date yet. However, I would really love the committee to look over the talking points that we had, some of the information that was just provided, and then let me know before the meeting, and I will get that meeting date to you as soon as it is set. But let me know if there are any other talking points we should consider, if there are any other examples under the talking points that were mentioned that we should include or look into. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? All right, as soon as I make that, like I said, as soon as I make the meeting, I'll send it out so everybody knows when I need the information by. That task was given to me less than 2 hours ago. And I might even ask somebody if they're more familiar with Teams, let me know how to make a Teams appointment. I'm used to Zoom. Is that sad? That's sad. Okay. Jen and Connie and Rob,
Adrian, I would
there
use
anything
whatever mechanism you use. I don't think Jerry meant it as like it has to be Teams. I just think he meant
I
video.
don't know. I felt that way. I'm like, ooh, how am I going to know when you're available? You're a busy man. But anyway, we'll get there and I'll get that information out to you. But again, the 3 that were in that meeting, is there anything I missed from the Barnes and Thornburg meeting that I should have gone over in a little more detail?
Well, this will affect the committee kind of more long-term, but he had another associate of his present there. We didn't see her, but Lauren Box is an attorney with Barnes and Thornburg. She'll basically be taking over the advocacy and the lobbying efforts, because Joe is retiring, and so he's kind of handing a lot of things off and bringing Lauren Box in on stuff. The name Box sounds familiar. Her mother is Dr. Box of the pandemic years. You may have seen her on TV with Governor Holcomb. This is her daughter. So so Joe and Lauren kind of, as they did last year, kind of working hand in hand for our lobbying efforts.
I will say that talking points page was extremely helpful to me last year. I know it went through several different iterations. It seemed like every week, it was fine-tuned a little bit more. And that final version of it, well, even every version of it, I used almost every week with different legislators, and it put it down into very clear language for them that they understood. So that'll be great to have it all on one page like that again.
Okay, any other anything else for the good of the group about Barnes and Thornburg and what we need of them?
Did you guys just discuss pilot program?
Oh, that was my very last bullet point and I missed it. The pilot program. So the sunset date on that pilot program, the one that it's Warren and is it Warren and Washington are doing?
Yes.
That sunset date is June 2024. And they talked a little bit about trying to get that date extended, but we also talked about getting I'm looking little additional information, extra information. So who are all of the programs that were involved? What does the data really look like? What are the statistics? How does it benefit all parties, K-12, the K-12 landscape, as well as the adult education landscape? Thank you, Jen.
Denise, are you guys a part of that program?
Yes, we are. Yes, I helped do that. It does help the well, it's very, Warren is really into it because Dr. Hanson, the superintendent of Warren, was part of the advocacy as well to get the bill passed. So this is something that he is very passionate about. It does help the Warren Central High School graduation rate. And last year we had 30 students graduate on time with them. And I mean, extremely credit deficient. And Warren also has an online academy. So it's just, so we find it's very successful where we're at. That piece of getting them into training is one that I know that Senator Ratz was all big about. He wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a checkbox, like credit recovery sometimes is just the way he described it when I met with them last November. Are we just giving them credits to get that diploma? Whereas, with our program here, we're making sure that the students are getting the high school equivalency, graduating with their class, but then getting into a training program on top of that. So there is some talk. I know at Washington, which is a little different, their program is actually in the high school building. So the students are still in the building with training, whereas at Warren, the students come over to Highlander Park where we're at. So that's something that Natalie was working on with the high school to get it a little bit more integrated into the high school so that the students are still staying with their peers. So so far we have a really great coach over at the high school that works with us well to make sure the students are, the right students for the program, because it doesn't fit everybody, but because you still do have to pass, the HiSET or the GED exam to get that diploma. So I know the numbers here and that Natalie and Todd put together last year when we talked about extending the bill, all were positive to it. So I thought at that time Michelle was trying to get C9 involved too. So I know that was one of the other things that I remember from last year of trying to get some more programs involved with the program. So, hope that helps.
Because the original legislation and current legislation define specifically what school corporations can participate. There's only a very, very small handful. You can count them on one hand. So Michelle introduced a bill to expand it last time, but the bill was not even heard in committee. In the House Education Committee, the chairman is not interested in the HSC pilot project at all. So he's he declined to have the bill heard in committee.
Do you think that's why Michelle hasn't pushed for it? Or, I mean,
No, I think she pushed for it. In fact, she's vice chair of the committee.
well, I mean, we haven't heard anything from her on it, I guess. You know what I mean?
Why she hasn't? Could be, I don't know.
So if we want to talk to our members that are involved in the program to make sure that
But
Adrian and
yes.
Connie understand the success or the not success of it, who should they talk to?
Well, our members, Denise and Natalie from Warren, and Todd DeLay in Washington Township.
And that's it?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
only
it got
two.
expanded. Yeah, I thought it got expanded to more than that. No?
No, that's what the bill was, but the bill is not heard in committee. So, but Joe
Okay,
said
okay.
today, Joe said that he's going to try to talk to Michelle and ask her, does she want to propose another bill that would have something to do with the pilot project, extending the date, possibly expanding, kind of see what she has in mind. Certainly the date, because that's end of the program year, it's done. Unless the date's extended.
So educate me, Rob, mentor me on what is the difference between, or how would that work differently with the programs that are associated with the school corporation versus the programs that are not?
Denise, you can help me here. What happens with the high school and the adult ed program, if they have a senior who is severely credit deficient, and there's a limit on the number of students they can put in this, the student does not exit high school until the time he takes the high school equivalency test. But if the student does that and earns an industry recognized certification, then that senior then is removed from the graduation cohort. Right, Denise? Is that how it's worded?
That's how I understand it. They are,
Yeah.
I mean, overall, what it will do is what it's done for Warren for the past 2 years by taking and being out of the cohort. It's increased the graduation rate of Warren Central High School. So,
yeah. So the idea is to try to keep those seniors surrounded with the supports that the high schools typically give struggling students. You know, that adult ed programs aren't that quite well equipped to do. And help, and just really, it doesn't count them as a graduate, but removes them from the graduation cohort. So it does help the graduation rate of the high schools if someone completes that.
So expanding it to other programs that aren't affiliated with the high school corporation, not a possibility really then, right?
Not at this time until unless the legislation is introduced and passed that would name other school corporations or open it up or open it up to all, whatever they decide to do there.
Isn't that kind of, and maybe I've got the wrong idea, but isn't that kind of almost cheating? Because if it helps the high school graduation rate, but it's not really a high school graduation. Isn't that, I mean,
I don't know.
how does that help us?
well, I mean, for us, I can tell you, I mean, none of it counts on our table 4. So it's not an enrollment, it's not an HSE. I mean, we look at our numbers we had last year. I mean, we had 30 additional HSEs through the GOT program taking the test. But what it does on our end, I'm speaking just from Warren, is it creates a strong relationship between the corporation and us, and the support, and when they can help us out. So I know for us, it is all about keeping that strong relationship with the corporation and township of Warren. So, but I do understand what you're saying, Connie.
So if we expanded this, and I'm just trying to get a picture of this, if we expand this and it doesn't count for us in any way, shape, or form, but it does count for the high school, why are we doing it? Other than to help the student, but they get all the money, they get the credit, we don't get anything. but
Good.
community
Right.
support, what is the benefit to us? I'm just confused here.
That is the benefit. It's a closer working relationship with your high school, and and benefit to the student. There is no money involved from adult education. You can't use adult education money on this. No money was appropriated to the high schools to do this. They must incur the cost, except for the high school equivalency test itself, I suppose, unless they decide to pay for it somehow.
So
Yeah.
now, but don't you
And
think,
and
go ahead.
and politically, statewide politically, I think it kind of shows that we are interested in being part of a solution to students who just drop out of high school with nothing.
But again, the schools all benefit and we don't.
Yeah.
We can't even count them
Right.
in our graduation. So it is a false number for them. And that, I mean, it seems like we're kind of helping pad their success, and yet we're the ones that need the money. I'm just looking at all this, and I'm not trying to say that it doesn't help the student, but what does it do for us?
Right.
We
Right. There's
don't get any credit.
There's no money involved in it. There's no state allocation for this program.
But here's what it takes those graduates and puts them in their numbers instead of ours. So it makes it look like they're doing more than we are.
Well, Denise,
for high
what do you
school
find
equivalency.
Yeah. So Denise, what do you find the workload to be? Are you guys contributing work effort to it, or is it more the high school carrying the ball?
I mean, I'm not, we do have some extra paperwork and things like that, but with us having a testing lab on site and with the class, I mean, the students are fit in with our class. So it's just adding, it's adding a few more students to class, it's adding a little more to our testing, but it's not expending a lot of our extra effort. It's just, a lot of it is done on the high school side with the career coach and the counselor from the high school. Like all the paperwork, everything to get them enrolled with us all comes through them. So
at what point do all high schools decide, poof, we don't need adult ed, we'll just do this for dropouts, we don't need them?
Well,
so as an organization, how it seems a little threatening to me, and maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Yeah. Because number one, it's only high school seniors. Secondly, it's only a certain number of high school seniors. So, and high school senior, the high school senior, high school age students are only less, as we heard from Jerry, slightly less than 10% of our population. So you can't say that this, and first of all, it's not, so mathematically can't be a takeover of adult ed. Secondly, this thought is secondly, I've lost it, but anyway.
But if it wasn't a pilot project and they allowed the numbers to be increased, it would be a takeover of adult ed. Schools wouldn't, we wouldn't be needed because anyone, I'm trying to figure out, why do we support this if it doesn't benefit us?
And kind of a corresponding question is, why would the school just not simply exit the student so that they could enroll in adult ed with an exit form?
Because they want all that money and they want the credit.
It'd be a dropout. It'd be a dropout for them.
Okay.
I statistically speaking, and maybe I'm not understanding, so please help me. Denise, you said that the student who goes through this process is removed from the graduation cohort. So if the high school was supposed to graduate 100 students and this one student did it, then that high school is supposed to graduate 99 students. Is that correct?
That's the way it was explained to me in the simplest form. Yes.
Okay, so that student is not on the graduation cohort numbers and it's not on the adult education numbers. So it's kind of almost like this student doesn't exist.
And so then the school can say they had 100% graduation rate when that isn't true.
I'm just wondering about the statistics and how, like, as we're looking at a state, you know what I mean? Especially in terms of expanding, I mean, then how many students wouldn't, I don't know. Am I looking at this wrong?
I would have to look at the report again because I know Natalie and Todd were the ones that put all the numbers together. And the first year that they had the program and then it was approved was before I was with Warren. So now on another, just kind of a tangent, I don't know this. When I was actually at Wayne, we talked about trying to implement the program there. And then that side, at that point, I know things can change and I've been gone there for over a year, but there were so many pieces put in place in Wayne that they felt they didn't have as big of a population that needed this graduate on time program because of, you know, the different avenues they had to help students graduate beforehand. So that could be some of it too. I think it just looks at, like I said, the students that come to us, they're seniors and they have 7 credits. So no matter what extra that's being put in, they're not going to graduate on time. But I will also say there is a limited time to get that. So if they don't finish their high school equivalency by, I believe it's October 1, then they're no longer count on that graduation rate. And in fact, I mean, we currently have 2 students right now who were in the GOT program last year, didn't get it, couldn't get that last test passed. They are now our students and they're finishing up now as an adult ed student. So, I mean, it does, but again, you're looking at, that was only 2 students out of everybody too, but we do have that, fingers crossed one's going to finish on Monday to get that, but he stayed into it. It is just I think it's also another way to keep these kids in school, because when they're looking at how credit deficient they are, you know, when you look at the statistics, if we lose them now, I believe the number is they wouldn't come back from 5 to 8 years down the road. But if we can capture them now as 17 and 18-year-olds, they have a better chance of getting the credential now and moving on to that. So I know that is also part of the bill and how it was expressed when we talked about it, is to lessen that gap of absence from high school dropout to when you'd actually come back to adult ed.
So let me ask you this: is this possible? And again, is it possible to change the bill to say that adult ed gets some type of credit?
Well, the person would have to drop out of high school in that case. So here's the thing. Let's say in a scenario where the bill is introduced to remove pilot and any school corporation can participate. The school corporation still has to partner with the adult education program. And if the adult education program says, no, we don't want this, then there's no class for that. Then it won't happen in that community. So,
but then when it comes time to up the contract, the school corporation can go for the contract. I'm just looking at all possible scenarios.
No, not without a partnership with its adult education program.
I'm just it's a very interesting concept and it makes total sense, except for the fact that adult ed gets no credit for it, but the high school does. That seems so lopsided. If it expands, we should figure out how to get credit.
Is it beneficial to us enough as it is with the current programs, or would it be more beneficial if we expanded it and offer and basically improve our reputation with all school corporations, building a better collaboration on a statewide basis? Basically, we are supporting you, support us in return. Do you feel like if we expanded it, that there would be that overall benefit on a statewide level?
I don't know. To me, it seems like this. Oh, listen, John, you're not going to graduate from high school, so we're going to put you in this adult ed class, and the adult ed teacher is going to teach you, and then you're going to take this test, and then we're going to get the credit. But the adult ed teacher, well, they helped you, so that's a good job. Good community partner. But again, how does that help us elevate, show our statistics, and get more money in the end? Because really what the high school's doing is saving their own butts so that they can get the credit and they can justify more money in the end. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to give this a thought after I talk to Todd and Natalie. Maybe I have the wrong concept going on here, but it seems so lopsided that if we support this, we should get something other than community goodwill.
I also have a little bit of a concern. I think, you know, Warren and Washington, larger programs, a different set of resources than like what my program has. So would this, and if it were expanded, create those wait lists in the classes that the state is trying to reduce? Is there any way that this could negatively impact adult education students? And I like the idea of community goodwill. I do. I like the idea of supporting the students, and I like the idea of not being, you know, K-12's enemy and all that. But is there any way that this could truly negatively impact, outside from being lopsided, but negatively impact how we're able to run our classes?
Denise, do you see any impact on your classes?
No, but because we've put a lot of parameters in place, it has been stated to those students that if you're not going to attend class regularly and put forth the effort, you will lose your spot, because we have adults who we have. So to make sure that didn't happen, those were put in last year, because some of the students took it as, I'm not going to lie, 3 hours a day, I'll show up at 10 o'clock, I'll leave at 10:45, you know, kind of things like that. And so there is an attendance policy that they're given from the high school connection. So I do understand what you're saying, Adrian. We did see that. When we looked at it, I'm like, I have adults wanting to get in here. So it did state that if you were not going to be committed to the class, even off your phone, then you know what, you're going to lose your spot, and we're going to put an adult in there who is waiting to get in. So, but that again was created through our relationship with the corporation, and from learning. I mean, it was a kind of, it's a learning experience. You didn't think about that from the beginning, but as the year went on. So this year there's lots of parameters in, and that does say you're expected to be a class on time, even to the fact that if you don't show up for your tests so many times, then you're going to have to pay for your test. It's not just a free cancel your appointment whenever you feel like it kind of thing, because we found that too. They'd schedule all their tests, and then next thing you know, they went out of town for a week and didn't tell anybody. So things we learned, that was one of them right there, so that it did not affect who we were serving in our community on the adult side.
I think if IAACE chooses to, support and get the end date removed, that it would be beneficial for the programs that are involved to kind of lay out those resources and, all those tips to make it better. And so just a thought.
Yeah. So will it locally, the original question, can it locally do any damage to local adult ed program? Sure. Just depends on how it's administered locally. Nothing's ever without a problem, but as Denise indicated, fix the problem.
I think too, in terms of resources, like the number of teachers. So if you have, 5 students from a high school, and then your class is full of, I don't know what the number is, but if your class is 20 seats and 5 of those seats are high school seats, and then your waiting list is growing because those high schoolers are coming, you know what I mean? That seems a bit, and again, I'm not against this. I'm just trying to get all of the information. Like that in and of itself is a problem, because then you have a wait list of adults. And if you fixed all the problems with the high schoolers and they're coming regularly, and and maybe they need a little TLC to get to that test, like it could be a couple of weeks. Great. Then you've got a seat open. Could be a couple of months. And then you've got adults waiting. You see what I'm saying? Like in terms of having a certain number of teachers, a certain number of funding. And if we're not getting funding for those students, then ultimately the seats that could be open for adults aren't open for adults, and the state's very committed to reducing the wait list. So my question kind of was, is this going against that particular goal? Because we're not getting any additional funding to add any additional classes or any additional teachers, but we're using seats. And it sounds as though the number is so small right now, it shouldn't create an excessive wait list. But if we are looking at either just expanding the date and leaving everything else as is, cool. But if we're looking at expanding it so that more seats are taken, it sounds like that might become a bigger waiting list. But that was just the question.
Yeah, and I think that's where the local decision is made. Are we going to participate in this or not? It just depends on the nature of the adult education program and the willingness of the school corporation and the adult ed program to partner. If it's not going, if they can't seem to overcome those barriers, then just don't participate. It's not a requirement. The law is not intended to require this partnership. It's to allow them to do it if they wish to. And the pilot particularly was to kind of do a proof of concept. Could this work? So let's say they open it up to any corporation and adult ed program want to participate. If you don't participate, don't participate. If you see so many problems, but those who see that it would be beneficial without causing any damage, then any kind of expansion like that would just simply allow it.
Okay, it seems like there might be a little bit more. Connie, I know you had wanted to get in touch, with Natalie and Todd. And again, I'm just looking at the time. We have about 13 more minutes scheduled in this meeting. And it's not that I want to cut this particular discussion off, but we might want to move on to Adult Education Day before we have no time to do that. Are there anybody opposed to that? Excellent.
Sorry, I probably caused all of this, but I'm just curious and interested at the same time.
No, I think it definitely helped my understanding, and sometimes a better understanding sometimes can see other additional barriers. But I know that was something that Jennifer, you and I had discussed kind of going offline and trying to get some information. So unless there are any other major questions or concerns, let's talk about Adult Ed Day. You want to take the floor?
Yeah, well, I want to say Jen. So Jen got the tour scheduled and ready to go again. So, but this brings up a discussion. So the tour is going to start at 1 o'clock, up for 100 people. Again, thank you, Jen. She sent me the confirmation and everything. Last year, the program went from 12 to 1, and I went a little bit over. So then the tour kind of got, delayed a bit. And they are on the way I read the verification, they're on a tight schedule and they want everything to start on time. So my question is, because we want the program to be around an hour, could we do 11:30 to 12:30? That way, if there was then there's that little bit of a break so that no one misses the tour. Or does that not work? Because I was just, logistics wise, to make sure anybody who wants to participate in the tour can. And if the program does go a little bit over, or I know our group last year was doing their video, so they were a little late to the tour too. So I guess my question, as I'm babbling, I apologize, it's Friday. Can the program run from 11:30 to 12:30 with the tour starting at 1? Does that seem like it'd be feasible for everybody involved?
Dun, 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 dun.
Do we have a specific did we book everything for this time and other people have to do it? We have to be out, or?
Let me see. I think Marilyn sent us all that contract stuff. Did she, Denise? Didn't she?
Yeah, let me check my,
Let me see if I can find it really
I
quick.
mean, I don't have a problem with it starting at 11:30.
The other option was to have a tour at 2, and an hour between seemed excessive, you know, so.
yeah, I thought when I'm looking at my email, so apologize if I am like squinting. I thought that it said the North
Found
H
it.
and everything. What, isn't it reserved for the entire morning?
I found it. Let me see here. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
So then, well, then to me, it sounds like 11:30 to 12:30 would work okay. Because I know I wanted to get that time out specifically to the programs. Like on our program, Natalie is getting her CDL training so we can bring a bus this year. We're planning it way ahead this time instead of last minute. And we have quite a big, I'm hoping other programs do too, but we have a pretty good number of essays going to be submitted for that, as well as a partner recognition. But I thought if we had times ready, because when I was talking to the partner we were working with, that we want to recognize that was their specific question, what time is everything? So if we have it from 8 to 2, I'd love to do the program 11:30 to 12:30 and start the tour at 1, if that's okay with everybody.
Did you say Natalie's getting her CDLB?
She's getting whatever she needs so she can drive the bus of students to.
All right.
Does she understand that when she gets that her superintendent or director of transportation may be calling her at 5 in the morning to drive an elementary route or something like that if they're desperate?
Oh,
Does she know what she's signing up for?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell her. So
Don't tell her.
I'll tell her after she gets
Can you drive bus 51 this morning?
Oh, you never know. That's why I'll just let her do the training. And I just told her I'm going to plan to be at the State House by 8 a.m. They can just meet me there. So, so
Will there be an adult ed meeting after the ceremony from 11:30 to 12:30 like there was last year?
I'm not sure.
Honestly, they always wait till the last minute to decide that. It's DWD's decision on that.
Okay.
And I know that as a committee, if you feel that's going to benefit the attendance, that you should ask for it early. Try to get them to schedule it early.
And that's the very reason why that idea came up last year and last couple of years to ask DW, Jerry, if they would have a PDF meeting and a director's meeting.
Okay.
But if we don't think it's necessary, we don't have to ask for it. And it's not to say they wouldn't have it anyway and tell us there's going to be meetings. So, but if you think it's
Probably
helpful,
necessary. I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. I'm being new into like the assistant director position last year. I liked it because everything, as we talk on Zoom right now, because we're all in different places, but so much stuff is at Zoom, and it is just nice to be in person and making those connections. I mean, that's why we like it at IAACE, but I know that's something we heard from the meetings last year. It's just nice to see people in person. So if that is helpful, I think that would be good. And I know the other thing I was thinking about, and Adrian, I was going to email you too so that we can meet together before the next meeting. But I knew right now the big focus was getting all the essays in and getting the partner recognition in before the December 8th deadline. So, and then I figured we could go from there. And then from my notes, let Jerry know what kind of PowerPoint presentation that DWD can create. I was going to reach out to, obviously Warren and Washington and Wayne to get all do the whole that refreshments and things all taken care of. My notes said Jerry was going to work on the banner that we had, just a new and updated banner. And then my only other thing I thought before that, just to circle back, was that Maryland, or if we're going to have, I thought we were going to have the point was to have one representative or senator speak, but then everything else is going to be more student focused and partnership focused. I understood that all correctly from my notes from last time, right? Okay.
That's
So-
what I understood.
So I guess my thing is after the deadline, we'll be able to see who are going to be our students asked to read their essay, what partnerships, and then we can get that agenda more finalized after we get that. So hopefully we have lots of submissions, and Rob or Jerry or no one has to send an email begging for more. So but
I'll report that there's been 2 business partner submissions and 1 essay.
mine is not, my business isn't in yet. So you'll have a third one, I promise.
And one from me too.
I have a list of people to contact for business partnership awards to sort of prompt them. So
Okay. Just on the sidebar, I don't know if you saw this Indiana, the Career Ready Indiana magazine with the Indiana's Business Journal. Warren and our partnership with Dormacaba was highlighted in that magazine. So
great.
it was pretty nice. And there's student quotes in there just talking about how actually one talked about trying a different type of adult ed program. I won't name names, but how our the partnership actually helped them reach their goal of getting their HSE here in this country. So just kind of cool. But if you ever see the Career Ready Indiana edition with the big green on it, so Warren and Dormacaba are in there.
Do you have a link or something to that? We can share it on social or something.
Yeah, let me I will work on that because I think that's all I have for Adult Ed Day. So yeah.
All right, excellent. And we've got 3 minutes left.
I do have a question. If you could just give me 1 minute. First, I wanted to tell you, I really appreciate being invited to this committee, but I do have to tell you, I cannot join you again until May. Unless the time has changed, because I have a standing commitment every Friday at noon. I'm on the executive committee of this other organization, and I need to be there, and I will be president of it next year. So this time just doesn't work for me. I also have a Rotary Club meeting at the same time, and so I can't throw another one in. So I don't want to ask you to change the time of your meeting because you've obviously worked hard to get it at a time that works for everybody else. But if that's possible to, you can change it. I'd love to be a part of it. But I can't be an active member in the meantime to show up at the meeting. But one thing I wanted to know is when I met with Representative Judy, one thing that he suggested to make sure that we get our word out there, because he was one of them who was very impressed by those talking points, and it made sense to him. He's been a big supporter. Is he said, really, the people we need to talk to are all of the folks on Ways and Means and Appropriations, which I'm sure you all know that. And I wonder if there is already a list of all of the programs who are in the areas of those legislators in particular, and that maybe there's a focus given to those programs to get to those folks to make sure that they are visiting. Because I don't think everybody's going to do it, reach out to their legislator, but if there can be a focus on those people in particular, I'd be happy to help with that. I'd be happy to say, this is what I did for advocacy, happy to tell you my story. It doesn't mean that that's the way you have to do it, but it may trigger something. So I just wondered if that was already something that was available, that list.
I don't think so, Rob.
I probably don't think it's available for this session because I'm not sure the committee assignments have been made yet.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know if those 2 committees are pretty much if they're standing or not, but I don't know what the process would be, but it seemed to me like that would be a good strategy, is just to align those programs.
Oh, for sure. No doubt. They are standing committees, but the membership can change from session to session.
Mm-hmm.
So
but
we have to wait for the.
I know Mike Senator's been on it forever, so that's why I don't know how.
Yeah, there's some rotation on and off. Ways and Means and Appropriations are very powerful committees. So once you're on, I would think you would tend to stay, unless you retire or don't get reelected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
You know what the time frame is for knowing that? I know they just had some sort of day or having a day soon to, I forget what it's called, but
organization day.
yeah, organization day is.
Gee, I don't know for sure. Let's see.
And while you're looking that up, I will just tell you that at our board meeting this morning is a brand new member is a state representative, Kyle Miller. And so he was at our first board meeting this morning. So that's
Awesome.
nice to have somebody on there.
Melinda, submit that to the advocacy success page so we can highlight that. That's awesome. I'm not finding anything. It doesn't, when I Google it, I can't get an answer. So maybe Rob will get.
Well, and it can be a question for later too, if we just know who it is. I mean, that is something that I would be happy to help with if I had somebody say, okay, here are all the program directors. I just don't know very many people, you know, so if there's somebody who said this program is in this area, then I at least could start a message string to those people and target them and give them instruction on, you know, how to invite those legislators and to talk about those talking points that are developed. So that's something I could offer to do.
Yeah, well, okay, so the thing on the DWD map that has the adult education locations, we highlighted it at conference with that one exhibitor booth. Then on the IAACE's site, there's the membership directory. So we can develop some type of labels or something that would highlight members or a way to sort members in our directory that would, you know, so we would be able to correlate where who's who. But I don't know if there could be anything added to the DWD's like map, for the lack of better word.
You know what? I don't even mean to get into the weeds that far. I mean, just once we have the list of who those representatives are, it's just, I would just need some help matching them up to the programs. I mean, I'm looking at the map on the second page of the talking points. That tells me where the programs are. I just don't know who's in charge, you know, of each one. So it's a matter of, you know, physically highlighting each one of those, you know, counties and saying, okay, who do we need to talk to develop that list of, you know, I would say, I'll bet it'll be 20 people, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll just say whenever it comes to like that kind of project and just the stuff that you're doing, being on the advocacy committee and even if you didn't attend meetings, if they can't change it, and that's totally up to the group, but you know, being that part and, you know, and then you could just communicate with Adrian what you're doing, and, you know, Adrian could report back to the committee. So I don't feel like you have to drop off the committee just because you know, can't meet at this time. But
and thank you. And I'm very happy to help in whatever way I can, as long as you know I won't be on those meetings. So, and that was just one way I thought maybe I could assist.
I'll throw out there that the communications committee has been meeting and talking about how we could utilize the podcast option and maybe even doing some video cast on YouTube, highlighting our advocacy efforts, talking to members on, you know, directors and of the programs, kind of like an interview situation, you know, just to get the word about adult ed. So they're still throwing around their ideas, and of course the strategic plan, I'm sure, is where they'll probably really iron out where where they want their focus and their goals and objectives to be. But there's a lot of talks going on.
I'll email Joe to see if those committee assignments that are on the government website is current or old.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I know we're about 5 minutes over, so I don't want to start on the last bullet point other than because this I think is just a busy time, you know, heading into the holidays and having that meeting with Barnes and Thornburg and planning Adult Education Day. But one of the things that was on a previous set of goals was to prepare an advocacy toolkit so that, you know, people who aren't strong in that area might have a starting point. And I think that aligns very well with, you know, what you were saying and what you're asking for. So I think that's a topic of conversation maybe for next month, especially once the strategic plan is done and, you know, maybe we're a little closer to being done with some of the projects. No need to start a ton of projects. Is there anything else for the good of the group that needs to be said before we go our separate ways?
I'll throw out there that the advocacy committee page has the section in the middle that's advocacy tools. And I totally rely on this group of what I put out there. So now there is some older stuff at the bottom that is videos from, and of course, Educate and Elevate that we collaborate with COAB on. But there's some old videos from, I don't know when exactly they're from, but how you guys want that toolkit delivered and how it's on the website. If there's, think about that whenever you start thinking about that to make it easier to access and all of that.
Happy to help with that.
Excellent.
Well,
All
it's
right.
nice to see all of you.
It was wonderful to meet you, and it's great to see everybody.
I'm so happy to see you here.
Oh, glad I could make it today.
Mhm.
So wonderful.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, I hope everybody. Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
So Adrian, whenever it comes to your meeting
Yes,
next
ma'am.
time, my understanding is you're
Yes.
not meeting in December because of the time, or you have to meet somewhere. Doesn't it? It's the, I can't remember. Is it what is this? The third, or this is the third? So it would be
This is the third, which would be the 15th.
okay. So are you going to meet in the 15th?
Yes, and I
Okay,
don't
all right.
mind having a conversation with the people on to see if we want to shift the time in some way. But oh wait, the 15th, that's the board meeting,
Yes, it is. Good
in-person
point.
board meeting.
Yeah.
You know what? Well then. Well then. I don't know. Can we have an email discussion about this? What days?
I just wanted to make sure.
I know
that
I
you
can't
touched
do.
on
I
it
know.
before
I know. I'm just looking at December might not be an amazing month to meet unless we do like Denise and I, if we want to set up something for Adult Ed Day. But do we think there's anything really pressing that we have to meet whole group style for?
I think
Because Fridays
that
in December look
probably you
terrible.
can develop with their little I sent an email for you that you guys that on what you asked about Connie and meeting with Natalie and Todd about the HSE pilot. If you do subcommittee for that and then do a subcommittee for Adult Education Day, I think you'll be fine. And then just wait
Okay.
until January to meet as a
Sounds
whole.
good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Is December
right.
8th, is that out for a committee meeting? December
For
8th?
me, it is.
Oh,
For me, it is. Yes. My kiddo's considering going to Indiana Academy, so we're going to a visit on that day.
December is just very full of
Yeah.
with the holidays and everything. So it's hard to schedule anything in December. And that way I think little subcommittees, all the other little conversations too that Rob, that you have to have and everything that has to be developed. I think December is a good month for a bunch of subcommittees meetings.
Mhm, mhm.
And Adrian, I
Agreed.
just send you an invitation, but take a look at it. I was just looking at my calendar. So,
Not a problem. Not a
but-
problem. If it doesn't work, I'll send back
exactly.
questions.
Okay, sounds great. So, okay.
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Okay. I'm staying on until you guys all leave.
I know I was like low key waiting for everybody to like hop off. I'm like, wait, is there another question?
No,
The-
I just stay on until everybody's gone.
The House members and Senate members, just about that committee assignment stuff, the House members and Senate members are meeting in their chambers on November 21st. So I would suspect that they would have committee assignments shortly after that, but I'll ask Joe. The Senate doesn't have anything listed for committees, nothing.
They just don't work.
They just don't
Just
work, yeah.
kidding. All right. Well, you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, too.
Bye-bye.